That's great. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Alejandra Arguelles. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am one of the program coordinators at the Idea Center.
Hi, I'm Christine Alvarado, also she, her, hers. I am a teaching professor in CSE and I also direct the Ersp program. And then with us, we also have Rachel and Iman, and you'll hear from them a little bit later on. They are former Ersp participants.
So today we will be talking to you about the Guided Engineering Apprenticeship in Research program.
And also the Early Research Scholars Program. And you'll learn through this presentation that they're actually very similar programs. They're just, they're run separately for various historical reasons, but they're really kind of very similar in their structure.
To start off, the Idea Engineering Student Center's mission is to foster an inclusive and welcoming community, to increase retention and graduation rates, and promote a sustainable culture of academic excellence among all our engineering students at UCSD. So the GEAR program is run through the Idea Center. Some of the other programs that we offer are Jump and Team, which are mentorship programs. We also help facilitate the student matching funds and student travel funds. We host workshops and information sessions for engineers. Some of you might have attended those throughout the year, as well as help coordinate our Eng 10, which is Fundamentals of Engineering Applications, as well as Eng 15, which is Engineer Your Success.
All right, great. And before I dive into the slide, I do see some questions coming in the Q&A, which is great. So please do continue to put your questions in the Q&A. We will probably take them at the end after our short presentation. We may answer a few of them with text, but mostly we'll answer them live at the end. Okay, so to give you an overview of the Ersp and the GEAR program, you may already be familiar with the fact that it's an academic year program. So it runs from fall all the way through spring. So if you do participate, you'll be committing to participating for 3 straight quarters, fall 21, winter 22, and spring 22. And both programs are designed as a first research experience. So they're best for students with no prior research experience. And in fact, potentially very little disciplinary knowledge when you start the program as well. Most students who start Ersp and GEAR are early students. So maybe as early as their sophomore year. In fact, Ersp is designed specifically for students in their second year. And so it's really designed to take you from 0 up to being a confident and competent researcher.
For folks who are wanting to apply for the programs, GEAR, the Research Mentorship Program, is specifically for our bioengineering students, our ECE, our MAE, our nano, as well as our structural engineering students. Whereas Ersp is intended for specifically our CSE students, so students doing security and cryptography, computational theory, data analytics, systems and networking, as well as robotics, and more options within that. And Christine can mention a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's really broad. You know, our Ersp projects span the full set of computer science and engineering sub areas. We've had everything from these fields that you see here to bioengineering to, you know, all you think of it, and there's probably been an Ersp project on it. All right, so timeline. Both programs follow a very similar timeline. So right now we're in spring of 21. I can't believe it. And this is when the application is open. So the applications will close on April 19th. That's the application deadline. And from there, we will be selecting applicants. So you will actually know whether you've been selected before the end of spring quarter. But the program doesn't actually start until the fall. So in the fall, you will be grouped into your research groups and matched with your research mentor, and you will start your research group observation. So you'll start to get a feel for what your lab does and what the research is going on in the group that you've joined. At the same time, you'll be taking a research methods course that we'll talk about in just a moment. And the output of that course, so sort of the end deliverable of that course, is a research proposal that you will do jointly as a group, either pairs or larger groups. We go up to 4, even 5 sometimes. Groups of students will work together. So the proposal will then dictate the work that you'll do over the winter and the spring. So in the winter and the spring, you'll be carrying out your research that you proposed with a lot of mentoring support. And you'll also have some supplementary learning opportunities like workshops to participate in. And the whole program ends with a poster session in the spring quarter. And for this year and the year before, it has not been in person, sadly, but hopefully by spring 22, it will be back in person.
Similarly with Gear, it was non-in-person poster presentation. We had our students submit recordings. So we actually have, if you visit our Gear website, some of the student projects that were worked on throughout the year with their lab partner. So that's a really great opportunity. I'll make sure to drop it into the chat in a little bit. Yeah. So someone asked about Eng 20. So for Gear, so similar to this last slide, students you all apply in the fall. You do enroll in a course, which for Gear would be Eng 20. So it is an introduction to engineering research course. It is a 2-unit academic bearing class where students learn about practices and issues in engineering research. It's really intended to help students with preparing a poster presentation, really learning how to submit creative research proposal. So students learn technical writing as well as our taught by Dr. Ekaterina. And students have had a really great experience in the class because it's really taught them that the nuts and bolts of research, writing and research. And I believe I did have a question about the class within the Q&A. Christine, if you could talk a little bit about the research proposals in Ersp.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I think, so is the next slide the Ersp course details? Because I can talk a little bit more about that as well. Okay, great. So the Ersp course is a little bit, it carries a little bit more weight, I guess, but I think that's because the research units are wrapped together, and I'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a couple slides as well. But again, it's helping you get oriented to research. So you learn basic research skills, you learn technical writing, and then to say a little bit about the research proposal specifically, starting in about week 5, so about halfway through the course, you will start to write your proposal. And the proposal is seeded by an idea that your research mentor will provide at the beginning of the program. So they will write up about a paragraph of what they think your team will work on. And then it's your job to kind of turn that paragraph into a full proposal for the research that you'll do. And we do a lot of work with that proposal and a lot of revision over the fall. So by the end of the fall, you have a really crisp, clear, even though it might not feel crisp and clear at the end of the fall, it really is a crisp, clear idea of where you're going to go over the next 2 quarters.
Additionally, again, we've talked about research lab placement. In both Ersp and Gear, you are paired in the lab. We do expect students to spend fall through spring quarter about 6 to 8 hours per week. So students in both Gear and Ersp work on a team of 2, as well as conduct research from that they submitted in the fall in their proposal. Throughout the quarters, you all also maintain a research log. So again, in Gear, you are placed with a lab partner, and with our Ersp, it can be a team of 4. And this is where we work hard to match you based on your interests.
Yeah, I think, let's see, we are going to say more. I see a question in the Q&A about like, when will we know what projects are available? We will answer that question, I think, in a couple of slides. But I want to, before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit more about the mentorship. So this is a very strong support mentored program. So in addition to your research faculty mentor that you work with, you will also, and the graduate students in their lab, you will also get additional advising from a central mentor. So there will be somebody who really meets with you regularly and helps you with the logistics of research, with organization, with goal setting, with questions that, maybe your advisor doesn't need to help you with because the central mentor can help you with. So there's a lot of support from this mentoring team.
Similarly for Gear, students are paired with a Gear Central mentor. In the fall, this past year, we actually had 2 previous Gear participants as tutors in Eng 20. So students had the opportunity to learn about what their own experience was like within Gear and their placement, and then now being paired with a PhD student has been really great for them. So some of the program details throughout the year, this is specific to gear, students are required to attend workshops. It is part of the program. I say required, but it's also part of the professional development that we help with our students. So in the winter, these of course are pictures from our in-person live events before going remote. But last year we did have a research skills workshop. So it was on resiliency and research. So students had the opportunity to learn more about how it was to overcome challenges in the research. Sometimes folks might be surprised when things are a little bit harder than expected, but then just knowing that that's a normal part of the process is really important to getting that potential PhD or that master's, knowing what have others before me gone through. We also talk specifically about networking as well as poster presentation skills as part of our workshops. So again, as part of year, you get mentorship as well as professional development workshops throughout the school year.
All right. And then some more details, like we were saying before, the capstone of the whole experience is an undergraduate research poster session or undergraduate research symposium. And unfortunately, we had such great plans for spring 20 to have a Jacob school-wide grand poster session, and then COVID-19 just shut that down. But the good news was we had some really lively, fun, smaller virtual poster sessions, and we're continuing that this year as well. But as I mentioned before, I anticipate that by spring 2022, we should be able to do the big in-person thing.
So time commitment, for fall would be about 12 to 15 hours a week, including the Eng20 course, which is 6 hours, the lab placement and related independent learning. As part of the lab placement in the fall, you're not yet conducting research as much as what you're doing is learning about the lab itself. So generally the PIs and your graduate mentors are sharing research papers that they've published so that you then create your own proposal and then start working by the end of fall quarter into winter quarter on your actual research that you'll be presenting at the end of the school year. There are also gear meetings that students are required to attend with a gear central mentor that also take place. For Ersp, all time included under CSC 193 coursework includes the assignments, which is 6 to 8 hours, meeting with research groups, as well as meeting with let me move this, meeting with my little bar is in the way.
It's a meeting with the research mentors. Yeah.
Meeting with the research mentors.
Yeah. So yeah, the idea there is that you know, as Alejandra said, you're not doing research, but you kind of are doing research. You're just doing the kind of research that you don't necessarily know is research, but it's background reading, it's learning, it's contextualizing what you're going to do in the field. And so that all of that is research. But I know a lot of students kind of go, well, wait, when do we get to start doing research? And I kind of say, well, you are doing research already. Writing the proposal is actually research in and of itself. So that's what you'll be doing in the fall.
I want to add too that it is a skill in of itself for you to learn how to understand research papers. I know sometimes our students get overwhelmed with those first set of papers that are shared by their PIs, the faculty in their lab. It might go a little further your head, but the point is that the class that you're enrolled in as part of the program, the CSC 193 as well as Eng20 is intended to help you learn the jargon of research so that when you create your own research proposal for the program, you're prepared.
Okay. And then in winter and spring, it is a little bit less of a time commitment. It's because you don't have the course anymore. You're just focusing on your research. So it's only about the 6 to 10. It's a 6 to 10. That's about right. We try to keep it, at least I try to keep it about 6 to 8 hours per week, because as I'll mention in a second, students in the Ersp are getting 2 units of credit for their winter work as well as for their spring work. So 2 units in each quarter.
So I know we have some questions about lab placement. So students will be match accepted students with a lab based on their major, department, interests, and skills. We also ask within the application what you're interested in, such as your research, the specific research that you are interested in, and then we confirm the matches over the summer. So at least for year, what we do is based on when you submit, we either see if we already have a faculty that is paired with the year program. If not, we look to see which faculty will want to work with us to have year students within their lab throughout the summer.
Yeah, and
We
I'll
work
say,
in the summer to get them.
okay. I'll say a little bit more about how that works for ERSP. So in ERSP, because it is all computing, and so there's not quite as much variation across like many disciplines of engineering, you're accepted without knowing what projects will be available. Then over the summer, we release project descriptions. So the mentors will write up their project descriptions. Sometime in, say, August, it's usually around August, we send it out to all of the ERSP participants, and you will rank your interest in the various projects. We ask you to keep an open mind. Some people say, I see a question in the chat, like, I'm only interested in quantum computing. There may not be a quantum computing project. In fact, I would say it's extremely likely that there would not be a quantum computing project. So if you're really like, I only want to do this, then ERSP is not the right program for you. But if you are willing to be a little flexible and kind of check out different areas, then this would be a great opportunity. And again, you have the ability to express interests, and then we try to match students based on their expressed interests to the projects. And those matches happen just before the fall starts.
Similarly with Christine with ERSP, the same goes for gear. I know we have a student here asking about the area of semiconductor chip design. You can definitely submit that on your application. But again, we do ask that you keep an open mind, because there might not be a specific lab working on that specific research. But if you're open to learning within that field, then that's something that we can potentially match you to. We also have a question about wanting to switch to bioengineering next year. Will I still be able to apply to gear if I'm not yet an engineering major? So unfortunately, you would not be able to. You have to be a JSOE student and to be able to apply for the program.
That's for gear. And I think we have application eligibility in the slide or two. So I'll revisit those requirements for ERSP, which are not limited to only CSE. Okay, so do we continue? Next slide. Okay. You can talk about this, Alejandra.
Yeah, so the gear options for research credits, so varies by department, and you can discuss this with your major advisor. So there are two things that you can do: either get 199 credit, but definitely most of our students are also getting co-curricular credit record validation at the end of the year. There's also the volunteering with there's also the opportunity for you to volunteer as part of the program. So, and I can definitely follow up with you all on that one. But to get CCR approved, you do need to have participated in all of the activities throughout the school year.
All right, and then ERSP, as I briefly mentioned before, is that the course in the fall, the CSE 193 counts as a major elective. It's a 4-unit class, and then the courses in the spring that you'll register for is CSE 198, 2 units each, and those combine to count as a CSE major elective if you're a CSE major. All right, so now we will answer some more questions, but before we do, we want to give you the opportunity to hear from 2 previous participants in ERSP. They're going to share their experiences and briefly, what it was like, why they chose to apply, and what impact it had on them. So Rachel, let's start with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel. I'm a 4th-year data science major, and I participated in ERSP in the 2018 to 2019 school year. And I was a computer science researcher in the Rob Knight Lab. The area of my research project was characterizing microbiota using neural networks. Essentially, we were working on a faster way to classify organisms within the microbiome, which are the collection of microorganisms like bacteria or fungi in an environment. And throughout my time in ERSP, I learned the importance of taking the initiative in regards to my learning. Initially, it was really shocking when I learned that most of the questions that I had about our research project were going to have to be solved by my group and I. Essentially, we couldn't just find the answers to what we wanted on Google. And as a result, I learned the importance of trying new experiments, even if I was unsure of the outcome, because that was when I learned the most about what it was like to be a computer science researcher. And thankfully, all of my advisors were really helpful with providing us with research papers and tutorials to make sure that we really understood what we were doing. And it was more than often the case that my advisors would ask my group and I if we had more questions, because they really wanted us to make sure that we were learning. And it was also really nice to have my research advisor and Professor Alvarado and the TA for ERSP that taught us how to excel in computer science research. And we were given a whole quarter to understand how to conduct computer science research and how to read a research paper efficiently. And also ERSP taught me a lot about how to convey my research in a presentation and work with other students. And some of the most important aspects of my experience was that I learned a lot of important technical skills throughout the duration of the project. And one of those was a convolutional neural network. And this was one of my first times actually doing machine learning. And this project really piqued my interest in possibly studying machine learning in graduate school. And one of the best behavioral skills that I learned was how to take the initiative, because due to the fact that it can be really challenging to find a lot of time for 4 second-year students to all meet in a group to work on research, there were some weeks when we realized that we just couldn't complete all the tasks that we wanted to. But after several weeks of this happening, we decided that it would be best that we all try to read more research papers on our own and really assign ourselves independent projects so that we could also all feel more fulfilled. Also, I learned the importance of asking questions when I was confused, because sometimes I would be reluctant to ask questions because I didn't want to seem unknowledgeable in the subject. However, it was more than often the case that the other people in my group were also confused about it too. And so another way that I overcame this was that just by realizing that everyone in my group had different strengths, seeing that we all had different majors too. And one apprehension that I had before joining my research project was I wasn't sure if I could contribute as much as I wanted to my team. Moreover, I was also really nervous that I wouldn't be given enough time to fully understand the material, but that definitely wasn't the case. Everyone in my group was really willing to help one another, and whenever I had a question, everyone was really willing to make sure that we were all on the same page. And another amazing aspect about ERSP was that it prepared me with the necessary knowledge and skills to succeed in research outside of ERSP. And it also gave me the confidence to know that I could excel in graduate school. Throughout ERSP, this was one of the first times that I learned about what it was like to be a PhD student by being able to ask questions to the TA that was in ERSP. And after ERSP, I was able to participate in 3 other human-computer interaction and data science and machine learning research projects. And I also learned that I really enjoyed research. And also, I'm really excited to announce that I'll be enrolling in the MIT Media Arts and Sciences Graduate School program next fall. So I highly suggest that you all apply and really take advantage of this amazing opportunity and try to make the most out of whatever situation that you're in currently. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. And Rachel, stick around for the Q&A, I think, too. So if there are any questions directed at her, please do put them in the chat or in the Q&A. I do want to, before Iman, I'll give you a second or a few minutes to talk in a minute, but what Rachel said really spoke to one of the questions that is in the Q&A, which is what are the minimum class requirements for ERSP? Precisely what is the minimum skill level that makes one competent enough to successfully complete ERSP? And I think as you heard Rachel say, there's no minimum, really. You really just learn it all as you go. And you need a willingness to commit and work hard. And as Rachel said, like, don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions. So even if you're like very early in your learning, that's fine. We will kind of scaffold you to get a quick path to understanding. It will take work, but you can do it. All right. So Iman.
Hi, everyone. I'm a 3rd-year computer science major, and I participated in ERSP last year. And I did a project based with Professor Lerner and Professor Griswold, and our project was on like whether gamification was a viable option in increasing engagement and enjoyment within like testing for students. So what we did was we created a game that was focused on statement coverage, and we were able to see if like students found the process of like learning about statement coverage and practicing statement coverage more enjoyable in comparison to like a more classroom approach to that. And then what we were able to do, what was like nice about our project was that we were able to like start completely from scratch. So we like thought of the whole project idea together, and then we were able to create our game like all together. And then we were also able to conduct an experiment to see whether or not this gamified approach would be beneficial for students. And then afterwards, we were able to write a research paper, and we were able to get accepted to a conference and present at that conference too. And throughout Ersp, I feel like I really did not know anything about computer science research at all. Like I came in and I remember one of the first days we had to write a reflection piece, and I remember like asking myself, was like, I hope you understand what computer science research is at the end of like this quarter or at the end of the year. And I feel like I really was able to learn like the different parts of computer science research, and I was able to like take what I learned and be successful in other research projects. I remember like one of our first research papers, I was like, I didn't even know that we needed to have like an abstract and like our methodology and all these other elements. So I felt like within CSC 193 and like also writing a research paper ourselves, I was really able to understand what those different parts were and like what computer science research actually was. And then I feel like mentorship was like also a really big thing, because I never was one to really reach out to a lot of professors before I did Ersp, but afterwards I felt like a lot more comfortable talking to professors and like actually asking them about their research, because I never really thought the professors really would want to like talk about that or even was interested in like having students be part of their projects. And yeah, I felt like one of my biggest takeaways was like to, like Rachel said, like to not be fearful of like asking questions and always like reaching out to different mentors and things like that. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Iman. Thanks, Rachel. Okay. So I think we have just a couple more informational slides, and then we'll get to the Q&A. I think we've got some slides about the application procedure coming up. Yes, perfect. Selection criteria. So this is, I'll speak specifically to Ersp, and then Alejandra can amend anything that's a little bit different for GEAR. So what we look for in students are two things, and they're listed here. One is diversity. So this is really a program that's designed to support students and to support a diverse, inclusive community of students. So this does not mean you have to be yourself from a group that is underrepresented or marginalized in computing, but it does mean that you have to have a really good understanding of what it means to create a diverse and supportive community in CSE, and in particular, what the experiences that people who are not, from groups that are not well represented in computing face. Okay, so that's kind of the idea. So there's a question in the chat is, do applicants from well-represented groups have a reasonable chance of getting into Ersp? I mean, I would say it's reasonable, sure, but you need to be able to speak to the questions on the application. Okay, and then the other thing we look for is motivation and dedication. We're looking for people to express like why they're interested, and we want to know that you're going to commit to the whole program. And we do ask for your grades just to be sure you're likely to be able to handle this commitment. But at least in Ersp, the academic grades are not explicit, like they're not going to keep you out if you have like a 3.1 instead of a 3.7, right? That's not something we look at.
And I'll say similarly with GEAR, you do not have to be from an underrepresented background. However, it is designed really to for students who have not had research yet. So that's really going to be the key when we're reviewing applications. We want to give this this chance for students who have not had research experience yet on campus. Within the application, there are questions about diversity in terms of how you have contributed to campus. So that'll be an opportunity to see just in terms of the UCSD, making sure that you're upholding some of what the Idea Center supports as well. So benefits.
Go ahead.
So benefits of both programs, it's that for a year, you are able to grow individually and build a community in engineering research. So you're able to connect with other students interested in research, at least for a year. You're paired with a lab partner. In Ersp, you're paired with a few other students on that same project. You learn from research and your academic mentors. Again, when you're placed in the lab, you have your PI, you have the graduate student who's paired to work and supervise you, and then you have the graduate central mentor. So you're learning about research from a variety of folks that you are connected to. You also develop research and professional skills to succeed in future research experiences. I mentioned for GEAR, at the end of the school year, we do have a networking workshop so that students can learn about how they can apply what they've learned in their lab at future conferences, as well as focus on other professional development that in our workshops as well. So we mentioned this before. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
We mentioned this before for GEAR, students that are eligible or bioengineering students, ECE, MAE, nano, and structural engineering. You don't need to have prior research experience. In this case, we want you not to have had research experience, but some research experience is fine as well. The student's going to benefit the most is someone who's new to research. So as long as the student is a first-year student at the time of application, you are eligible to apply. Especially transfer students, we want transfer students who are in their first year to apply as well.
Yeah, for Ersp, that eligibility is a little bit different, but similar. So in CSE, we're really looking for students in their early career. And we are, since the program is run through CSE, there is a slight preference for CSE majors, but it's not exclusive to CSE majors. So Rachel is a data science major. So we do accept students from CSE related majors. We want you to have taken no upper division CSE courses yet at the time of application. But if you've taken, say, one, especially if you're a transfer student, then you might still be eligible. If you are not a current first-year student right now, if you're like a second year or beyond, and this is like the actual years you've been at UC San Diego, not your standing, right? So we're talking about like, if this is your first year at UC San Diego, then you're definitely eligible. If it's your second year or beyond, then you may be eligible. So in all of these, if you fall into the maybe category for eligibility, all that means is that you need to complete a third application essay saying why you should be considered for the program, even though you don't meet the strict criteria.
We also have a question about how competitive the program is within the chat. We do have an average, at least last year for GEAR, about 60 to 65 students that apply with, and we only have spots for 26 students for the program.
Yeah, and I'd say, and it's similar, maybe even a little bit more competitive in CSE. We had about 160 applicants last year, and we have space for 50.
We could also get more applicants this year. So again, the year before that, I wasn't part of that process with GEAR, but again, we could also, it all depends on how many folks apply for the program.
Yeah.
Another question for you, Christine. Oh, you just removed.
Oh yeah. So I think I answered the question about like, can MAE majors apply to Ersp? And you can if you have a computing related major, but you do need to fill out that last essay.
So this is your opportunity to let us know what questions you have. Applications for both programs are due Monday, April 19th at 11:59 p.m. I mentioned in the chat that we'll be posting this recording on our Idea Center YouTube channel. But again, you can find more information about the applications themselves on our websites. And then, not sure if you wanted to mention anything else about Ersp. I'm sorry.
No, timeline is the same. Yeah. So apply by the 19th. And then just to address a couple of the questions that were answered in text about if you have prior research experience, can you still apply? You absolutely can. I think what you can apply, I think in Ersp, you may find that Ersp is too basic if you're very skilled in research. And if a student has a lot of prior research experience, you may be less competitive for Ersp, ironically, because we really do want a group of students who don't have a lot of experience. Once you start getting the one student with tons of experience, it throws off the balance and it makes students with no experience start to feel, vulnerable and kind of sad, and it's a harder dynamic. So this is really meant to be an introductory experience. So you might want to consider if this is something for you, if you really are advanced in research. And every year we have a couple students who think about it and maybe one who starts and then they typically will drop out within the first couple of weeks. And we really don't like that, because if you take a spot, then you're taking it away from someone else. So we do ask you to really think carefully about whether this is the right program for you if you've had a lot of experience.
I also want to add that if you're interested in seeing more about our gear projects, I mentioned earlier that on our website, if you scroll down a little bit, you will actually be able to see the gear projects from the previous year. So again, you can see their posters as well as the projects that they worked on. I know we have a question here about what are some examples of research questions. Again, this is our students that we highlighted on our website did an amazing job with their poster presentation. So we did share it with folks.
Yeah, and I hit the wrong button here because I was going to put the ERSP website. Well, it's right here, but you can go to the ERSP website and you can see that there's the past 8 years of projects there, so you can get an example of all the projects that people work on.
And then there's a question.
Yeah, as more questions come in, I want to also encourage you to direct questions at Rachel and Iman as well, since they're here with us.
And someone mentioned about the rate of competitiveness for the GEAR program. It is based on how many students, so it's more about accepted into the program as a whole versus within a specific department. So I definitely encourage you to apply if you feel like it's a program that would help you out within your own professional and academic goals.
All right. And then the last question that I see here that's open is someone currently enrolled in an upper div management course that counts as a CSE elective. Does this count as an upper div CSE elective? Just to be sure, I would just put that in the third essay. Just say exactly what you said, that like you're in an upper division management course, but you haven't taken any other upper division CSE electives.
There's a question in the chat. If we already have a research offer from a UCSD lab for the academic school year, you're still able to attend the GEAR program's instruction opportunities. Unfortunately, you are not. Those are only open to GEAR students. So Eng 20, as well as the professional development workshops throughout the academic school year, because we do invite students at PIs as well as their grad mentors to attend those professional development workshops to provide feedback. So those are reasons why they're only open to our GEAR participants. But if you're interested in receiving other professional development opportunities through WISE workshops, I also make sure to include topics that are similar to help our engineering students.
The other question in the chat, I'm going to direct toward Rachel and Iman. The question is, what follows ERSP? What opportunities are opened up once you complete the research program?
Yes, so I know it's fairly common for some ERSP students to continue to do research in the same lab. For instance, I participated in the same research lab the year after ERSP, and I'd be happy to share some of the other research opportunities that I participated in too. So this past summer, I worked with Professor Rose Yu, and we created a machine learning model that predicts the variation of precipitation in the Midwest. And during the fall quarter, I participated in a more data science research related project where I analyzed data from the California solar incentive in order to understand the social impact and solar inequity of low carbon transition. And now I'm working with Professor Laurel Rick in her healthcare robotics lab, and I'm designing inclusive user interfaces and control modalities for homebound students and doctors to use these telepresence robots at schools and hospitals. So overall, I'd say that there's countless opportunities. And if you ever need help with like finding opportunities, it's a great way to connect with the other students in ERSP to really see where your interests lie, because a lot of professors are really looking for students who went to ERSP because you do have that knowledge of how to create a research presentation and how to conduct research.
Iman, do you want to share your experience?
This past summer, I was able to work with Professor Alvarado, and we were able to do a research project on creating more equitable pathways to computer science and like making computers introduction to computer science class like more inclusive. And then I was also able to work with the professors that I worked with on the research project from last year. this year, and I was able to like just like talk to them more about like more CSC stuff that's going on at UCSD. And then I also felt like after doing ERSP, I just had more connections with other professors. So then I was able to like tutor for them, or I was able to just like be more in contact with them. So I was able to learn more about like the other research projects that they were doing as well. And I felt like having ERSP, like even on my resume, I felt like I was more attractive like for industry and stuff like that. So I feel like that helped me get an internship this summer.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, I think watching the students develop through ERSP, you know, everybody in the program just becomes more confident. You know, they become very good at speaking about talking about technical research, and it opens doors when you can do that. And so you'll find lots of opportunities. A technical question, I'll just answer this live. For ERSP, should I answer the third prompt if I'm a computer engineering major from the ECE department? Yes, when in doubt, just answer the third prompt. Okay, let's see. Next question. Would being involved in ERSP while also being a tutor for a CSE class be a manageable workload? So it's tough. People do it. And maybe Rachel or Iman did it while they were in ERSP, but I certainly wouldn't recommend it in the fall when you're just trying to get started in your research project. And you have to be really careful because the ERSP is a commitment, and you're committing to the project and you're committing to your group. And so if you don't have the 6 to 8 hours a week, you know, if you've bit off more than you can chew, you really don't want to be in a situation where you're letting your group down or not being able to fully participate. So I would say be very careful with accepting a tutor position and ERSP at the same time. It can be done. You just have to acknowledge, like, then watch your course load, right? You don't want to take 4 heavy classes and tutor and ERSP. Like, that will not work. So you have to really carefully balance. And actually, I want to go to either Iman and Rachel again and just have them say a little bit about that time commitment and how they kind of managed it and what they experienced.
Yes, on average, I'd say that my group and I worked about 6 to 8 hours a week, and it definitely did increase in winter and spring quarter because that was when we were learning how to create the convolutional neural network, and we were trying to create the presentation as well. And so I wasn't a CSE tutor, but I was a writing tutor, and I do know some other students who also did tutor during their time at ERSP, but it definitely is very challenging to juggle all of those, especially if you're new to computer science research. So I definitely say that it's possible, but you'll definitely have to be really good at time management and make sure that you're really good at communicating with your group about how much work you need to do. Because if anything, I think that it's also a group decision. When you are trying to commit yourself to a lot of things, just making sure everyone knows, like, if you're really busy one week, asking them if they could maybe help you more on completing your specific task. Overall, I'd say it's possible, but it will be challenging.
Yeah. And just to reinforce what Rachel is saying, I would say it's much better to do fewer things well than more things less well. So Iman, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I would say like everything that Rachel said was pretty relevant to what I was going to say. I worked during ERSP, but I felt like it did make it harder because I did work at the same time. But I had someone in my group that was a tutor, and they felt like it was a big time commitment, but they also was like, they really told us like about their time, so we knew exactly like how much they could be contributing. So yeah, I felt like maybe it would have been easier for them to like, if they weren't a tutor at the same time.
And again, it's all a trade-off, right? Like, because if maybe you tutor, maybe you have to work, right? That's fine. But then maybe you don't take that like 4th really hard class, right? That's what I really look at is like, because the ERSP is giving you credit. Like, that's why we designed the program to give you credit so that you could not have to take that extra elective, or, you know, this is counting towards your degree. All right. Any other questions?
If you think of more questions to ask, our contact information is on the slide, so feel free to reach out.
And I saw a question before about where this presentation would be posted. I just want to make sure everybody gets the answer to that question. I'm happy to post this video when it's available on the ERSP website, and I assume you'll post it on the GEAR website. Is that right, Alejandra?
We'll post on the Idea Center YouTube channel.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so then everybody just go there. Everybody go to the Idea Center YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
I might post it on ERSP as well, just because people who didn't attend might not know where to find it. Or I'll link to the video that's on the YouTube channel.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it'll be posted by Monday.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thanks so much to Rachel and Iman for being here and sharing your experiences. And thank you to all of you for your really good questions. And I hope we see lots of applications and spread the word. There are 34 of you here, but I hope we'll get lots more applications than that. So yeah, spread the word to your friends.
Okay, bye everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.